Good morning. Ugh. Okay, let me just get myself into my settled position. There's my face. There's my screen. Let's get going. Yeah, let's just make sure everything's working. Seems like Twitch is okay. YouTube is a bit behind. Ah, there we go. Okay, YouTube's working. Great stuff. Okay, nice. So, where were we exactly? What were we doing last time? Whoa. Why is my OBS on that screen? OBS, go to that screen. Just make sure everything's working. Seems okay. Okay. So, I think on Sunday, yeah, because I missed a day, we basically got the basic stuff to kind of work. So let's see what we managed to do. So we managed to move characters to a new level. We did make the levels grow in length. So technically, this was also done. Okay, we didn't follow exactly this template, but we did do this at least. Yeah, so timed waves kind of works. Now, what we also said was when hitting, hey, Mr. Human Limits, how's it going? Yes, like it. You are very early, hey? I don't think I've seen you this early ever. When hitting main totem, shorten wave time, right? Something like that. Remaining. Okay, so I wanted to do something like that. So if you hit the big totem, you could actually reduce the amount of time remaining on the level. So we can do that. Also want to add, it would be cool if we can add a visual element of some kind to main totem. So just some kind of a bar or, whatever it is. That when you hit the totem, you can see it goes down, and it also goes down and gets depleted during the level. So that would be kind of cool. Okay. Then I also need to change the way the amount of spawned enemy works. Yeah, this one's a bit weird, so we'll think about that. And then there are probably some bugs. Level resizing. Level passive effects. This is like being slower in the swamp, for instance. Okay, so we can finish up some of these systems, and then maybe actually make one of the levels, look like a level, look nicer. Okay, let's just get our time tracker, get it started. Start. You made a parkour movement system. That sounds pretty complicated. So if it works, congratulations. I would feel pretty good about that if I was you. I'm okay. Don't have too many complaints. Okay. I mean, this is going fantastically. The whole leveled stuff. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to add maybe a visual element there. That's not required. It's not super important right now. It would be cool. Another thing is we want to get this totem to potentially, do something when hit. I think that's the main issue we have. We need this thing to do something when hit for today. Okay, so we have the big totem. It can take damage. Okay, that's normal. It's a physics-based movement system. Ah, that's pretty cool. Now you need to take that and make a game out of it. Since you got the hard part done, right? That would have been the hard part. Getting it to work. Now it works. So go make a game. Make a complete game. It's based on your parkour movement. Like Subway Surfers. I don't know how parkour Subway Surfers is. Not very parkour, I guess. Okay. I needed something here. I can't remember what I was doing. Oh, I needed to create a script, right? So script. Enemies, I guess. So we got the level manager, enemies. Buildings. Okay. We can call this something like the main totem manager. Main totem or big totem. Okay, chill. Let's call it the main totem. Okay, and attached to it the main totem manager. Okay, so we want this thing. Okay, so it needs to do a couple of things, but one of the first things we need to have it do is just connect to the enemy building take damage script, right? Right, if you look at the normal building manager, yeah, it gets a reference to the building take damage. So we literally just need this again for a start, and then on start we'll do building take damage dot on building take damage plus equals plus equal tab enter. Okay, building take damage on building take damage, right? So, and we get the amount of damage that is taken. Okay, so if we think about this, we can do a couple of things here. Right, if we want building damage, okay, so currently when you hit it, right? What is that? Someone challenged you to make a coding horror game. You have an idea for a language for the game. Okay, so I assume it's a language as in a programming language, eh? How the hell is this even gonna work? You want to make up a whole programming language to make a horror game about coding? Yeah, I don't know about that one. That sounds very difficult. Just go make your parkour game. Right. Okay. So obviously when you hit this thing, it spawns. You think so? Well, if it's like a week, it's a 2 week or a 1 month project. Go for it. Right? What's 1 month? You can quickly make it. Then you get some experience making a game, making a start to finish. That's always nice. And then you can go on and make your parkour game. Okay, so let's see. So we spawned the damage number, which is the full damage of the character, right? But if you think about it, if we make the character damage reduce the amount of seconds, it's basically just going to wipe out the level, if you think about it, right? And so we kind of need this thing to take much less damage, to be honest. And I want to visually show that. Okay, the language is simple. The game, okay, and the parkour game would be simple. Look, I wouldn't say that, right? I think it might be simple to just make a basic game. But don't underestimate the amount of effort it is to make a good game. And a fun game. You quickly get in, if you like, you'll notice if you really want to make it a good fun game that people would want to play and not just some silly little side project that you can dump afterwards, you're going to have to spend a lot of time, a lot more time than you initially think, I believe, at least, to polish and stuff like that. Now, I know of people who's made very successful, very short games, like in a month. And that's great for them. But it's really not, it's not something that happens super often. And it's probably people that are very experienced, right? So that also helps quite a bit. Okay. So I'm thinking about this. I could just add a boolean or something that we can just check in the inspector to make this thing apply a different amount of damage. Yeah, I mean, I don't like that necessarily. It almost feels like I could just, well, it's better than just writing a new script, I guess. So we could just make a, well, let's make it a serialized field. Boolean. Let's call it is main building. Right. And it might be true or false depending on the type of enemy. And we could do something like if is main building, right? So let's think about this. If it's the main building, then our damage number can just be equal to well, we do damage over 10, for instance, right? And then else so we can just do something like that. So we only do 1/10 of the damage when we hit the main building. So if you think about how this would work is something like so I'm thinking about the wizard specifically. If he shoots the main building with his fireball and does 25 damage, it will reduce the amount of time remaining in the level by 2.5 seconds. That's quite a bit. And he does AoE, so that might be a bit exploitative. Okay, but you might not want to do this, right? We're also going to incentivize the characters to potentially, or the player, to potentially actually try to play the game or play the level, right? Because the more enemies they kill, for instance, the more rewards they could receive. So it's not like you're going to want to end the level early, but you could if you really tried. Okay? And so he'll only reduce it by 2.5 seconds. And then the other characters, if they have like, they could reduce it by 1/10 of the amount of damage they do. And the problem is they tend to do a lot of damage, especially later on. So you could have somebody like the ranger with a quick, very fast attack speed, or even the duck, hit this thing like 10 times or 2 times, 10 times, very quickly, and then obviously end the level fast, right? Okay. Well, for now, we'll leave it at 10. Be a private boolean. Okay. So we'll do this, and we'll go with that. And then our main totem manager, so it gets the damage. So what it should do is it should change the amount of time remaining in the level. So if we look at this game manager, it is, let's see, it is level timer. It is subtracting time from our level timer. And so let's see. I think what I want to do is just do a public void okay, it's just main totem. Well, let's just do a reduce remaining level time. Right, and you get some float for damage, right? Or something like that. Time. I don't know. Hey, Ice Bear. Let's just call it damage. How are you? How are you? Okay, so we're going to call this function. And basically what we want to do is we want to do level timer minus equal damage, right? I am well, thank you. The game dev is being kind so far. Yes. I think I want to do just something here. Can this go below 0? I think it can. I think it doesn't matter really. Yeah, let's just do that. So this is just a basic reduce remaining level time. And then our main building, when it gets hit, it's going to just call game manager dot instance dot reduce remaining level time, and it's going to pass in the damage over 10. You see, this is kind of dumb. I shouldn't do it this way. E dot damage, right? E dot damage. I shouldn't be changing this in two different places, right? Dividing it by 10 in two different places, that's bad. So let's go here. You know, we can do two different invokes instead. So we can do an invoke here and an invoke here. Those three things should happen regardless. Okay, and then this one would be damage over 10F. So if we're hitting a main building, it's this. If we're hitting a normal building, it's that. And then the main building, we don't actually divide it by 10 again here. Just so it's all in one place and we don't have to go looking for stuff. Okay, but this is pretty straightforward. So the main building manager, it could do other things as well, and it will do other things, but currently all it needs to do is just reduce level time when it gets hit. What we can also do is change. Okay, so we just need to plug in everything here, but anyway. So like that. And then we need to change just to make this a main building. And then I kind of want to change this damage number for totem. Let's duplicate this. Let's open it up and just call this the main totem. Okay, so I think, let's see, how would this look? Rename file. What did I actually change for the other one? I think I just made it bigger. I think that's all I did, really, but where the hell did I do that? Rotation and size, maybe? Pretty sure it's in text, but I don't see it. Huh. I don't see it in size either. I'm pretty sure I made this bigger, but everything looks the same, like a default one. Did I just reset it to default on accident? Okay, let's actually work with the text, and I think I'm just gonna put like a minus in front. And then here, I'm just going to do seconds. Did I change the size here? Maybe. I don't know. Okay, let's just try that. So let's save it. And let's get out. Yeah, so we'll put the main totem in there. Ugh. No, man, what am I doing? That's not where I need it. I need it in here. There, the damage number. Okay, main totem. Okay, let's play and see. Let's play and see. So I want to see the time reduced whenever I hit that totem. Okay, today these guys are somewhere in a different order, I guess. Okay, let's take the duck. The duck ninja. Okay, so it seems like he is reducing the time. Okay, I'm not entirely sure if this is what I want. Let's go check the owl just for out of curiosity. So he does obviously 25 damage or something ridiculous like that. So if I hit this thing, yeah, it reduces the amount of seconds quite substantially. Huh. So I mean, it works. I'm not entirely sure that this is how I want the game to be played, though. Like, do you... It might be an option, right? Like, I want them I want the people or the players to obviously fight the enemies and not just... What the hell? Not just attack the totem directly. Wow. Yeah, so the knight, for instance, will do very little damage, right? It says -1 second, but it's not entirely true. It would be 0.1 seconds. I wonder why it doesn't show a float. Let's just check. I think that might be something with the damage number itself. So if we look at the text, the number text, decimals. Okay, I think if I increase this to 1, it should be, that should be all I need to do, right? Actually. Now it will show 0.6 seconds instead of just... yeah, so let's go with the chicken because I know he does less than 10 damage. Okay. Okay, so that works. Okay, now I just need to do a few more polishing things. So we're going to leave it like that. The idea being that you could still, if you wanted, so in the past, right, the game used to work with the small totems. If you go kill them, if you destroy them, then the game would end faster, right? The wave. So we can still do that, but it's a little bit different, right? You don't just destroy it and it ends. Every time you hit it, it reduces the amount of time remaining. Now, eventually, you'll destroy it, technically, and then it ends. But yeah, for now, this is kind of how it goes. The other thing I thought, what did I think? Oh, we need to do sound effects and stuff like that, right? So most of these, if you look at the manager itself, when it takes damage, we play the totem hit sound, for instance. So we want to do something similar. Okay, so we want to get our sound manager and we want to play some sound. So where is our sound manager? Here we go. So we have the play totem hit sound. We can just basically copy that. And let's just put it there. Play, I'll call it main totem hit sound. Okay, so obviously we can't play wood hit sounds. That'll sound weird. So we need something else. So it should be something like a stone hit sound, if I had to think. Something like a stone hit sound, I think. Or just well, we can call it the main totem hit sound as well if we really wanted. But yeah, stone hit sound, whatever, it's fine. It's good enough, right? So we add a stone hit sound there, and then we play, instead of wood hit sounds, we just play stone. Okay, and then in the main totem manager, we can do sound manager.instance.play as main totem hit sound at our current position, so just the position of the totem itself. Okay, now we just need to go find a sound effect that we wanted to play. Right, all this setup is pretty straightforward. So let's go look for something. What is this now? Ah, it's the Unity problem. Okay, whatever. We won't. It's Unity's problem. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. It keeps forgetting that I don't want to click on terrain. It's kind of annoying. Anywho, let's go to our audio assets and see what we've got. Audio assets. Let's go to the everything bundle first. Oh, crafting sound effects could actually be good because... Oh, never mind. We only have hammer hitting wood. Okay, that's unfortunate. That doesn't sound bad. I think... Yeah, I hit... I think we can get more. So let's go window. Tools. I think it's window. Yeah, package manager. I think I can get more sounds in this everything bundle. This is not the whole bundle. I didn't download the whole thing. All. No longer supported. Okay, then. Yeah, this thing has a lot of files. I think I basically just imported some of the files. It's going to take a while, isn't it? Now, this is a 4 gig package. It's a lot of stuff. This is a mistake. Let's take a sip of water. Oh, I still have coffee. Let's take a sip of that as well. Half of game dev is watching a progress bar. Yes, indeed. Especially if you're using Unity. I don't know how the other... I used Godot before, and it felt like there was quite a bit less loading stuff happening. But Unity, damn. Damn. This thing wants to load all the time. Okay. So yeah, as you can see, there are quite a few sound effects still in this thing that I didn't actually get. Huh. I did actually get quite a few of them, it seems. What? Linoleum. What is that? No idea what that is. Liquid mud, tile. This must be like just sound effect, just walking on the floor, something like that. Barefoot sounds, pack 2. Okay, you know what? Let's just go select none, right? Okay, and then we can drill down. Yeah, because these barefoot sounds, I don't think that's what I'm here for. Okay, blood and hit sound effects. Maybe those are kind of interesting. The blood ones, not so much, but the hit ones could be body hits, clothes and movement. Yeah, I don't know. Debris. I don't think that's exomechanical suit, factory ambience, farm animal sounds, fire magic. Huh. I should have maybe flip-flop sound effects. It seems like most of these sound effects are just footstep type sounds. Yeah. I think I have the grenade. Horror ambient soundscapes, no. Yeah, maybe I should add these magic sound effects. I don't know. Okay, impacts. I think this is something I have. Lightning magic. Why not? Let's add it. Oh, here's some earth magic. Actually, I needed that a while ago. Let's just add all these magic sound effects, right? Monster sound pack. I think I used some of those already. Yeah, I do. This is actually already in. You can see it's not marked new, so I'm already using it. Monster sound pack 2. PC building. Mounting your cooler, inserting your video card, you know. This is a lot of stuff. All the sci-fi stuff could be nice, but I'm not going to import that into the game. Sound pack for RPG games. I think I have those. Yes, I do. Game menu. The sound of knight's armor. I got that. Mechanical armor. I don't have that, but I don't think I need that. Sounds of squeaks. Okay, we're importing new things, but I didn't see anything like what I would want. Yeah, I got a lot of magic sound effects, but I didn't really see anything like stone or crafting with stone or anything like that. Action and crafting. Let's just go in here again. Okay, bellows, opening, closing doors, torch, water, crafting. The blacksmith. I have this blow wood. Yeah, not really anything here. Okay, let's just import the ones I selected and let me then open my other sounds. Okay, let me see. Where the hell are these things? Oh, wait. I know where they are. I just dumped them in my downloads folder, which is not a good idea. Because that thing gets cluttered quickly. Anyway, okay. So we got this Pro Sound collection. We can go through it. Let's see if we can find something in kind of... Okay, these are just jingles and stuff, so that's not what I want. Impacts and smashable. Okay, rock avalanche. Rock impact heavy. Okay, that's like a rock falling. Hey, maybe that's a good one. That's an interesting sound. Okay, maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Miscellaneous? Bell bowling. I mean, it sounds like something is falling, right? Which is, it's okay, but it's not quite what I want. Let's see what the other sound packs have for us. Okay, so here we got another 2,000 sound effects. Let's see, impacts and hits. Okay, shovel hitting stuff. I wonder if, like, it's probably... Yeah, that's too much of a sound effect, right? These also... It's almost what I need. Swipes, slashes, and whooshes. So what I think I might... It's something like if you could get a mining sound, I think that'll be good. Let's see what this is. Yeah, probably not, hey. Nah, these are not. Yeah, no, this is very basic stuff. Is there anything that says crafting here? Am I just blind? Yeah, crafting or mining sound effects even would probably do it for me. Okay, let's go listen to this Everything bundle, some of the new stuff. Specifically, I think there was Earth Magic. That could work. Maybe we should just pause the music for a second so we can actually hear some of these. Okay, so that's quite a thing, right? That's too many falling stuff. Hey, this guy. I'm doing well, thanks, and you? I want something that's a rock, man. Come on. Where's all the rock magic? Nothing sounds like rocks. Everything sounds like soily and stuff like that, you know? I mean, there's this... Okay. I mean, technically it's a rock impact, right? But there's a lot of like, it sounds like a rock falling on the floor, and then there's 3,000 other small little pebbles rolling down the hill type of sound, right? But that's not exactly what I want. Oh, these are quite short. You know what? I'm going to go with these pebble impact sounds. Are you sick? Sick of what? Sick of work. I'm with you there. Yeah, I'm also sick. I'm very sick. I'm sick of this. I would do game dev the whole day if I could. But yeah, I can't. Did I get sorted what I needed to yesterday? No, not quite. Well, I at least I'm going in the right direction, it seems. But yeah, no, it's still gonna be like a 2-week process, unfortunately. So I still have a few more. So annoying. Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it's business related stuff, right? So I'm importing a bunch of stuff, and it got held up at customs because of some flippin' new custom thing that happened, and yeah, turns out I didn't comply. Yeah, it's some new rule that was implemented on the 25th of April. And our customs office didn't let anybody know. But then, as soon as my stuff arrived, I was notified by the clearing agent that, listen, all my they're not going to clear it because I don't comply, which was weird because yeah, I've been importing things for years now, so I was kind of confused. And then we started the whole process of getting it cleared up, but turns out you can't do anything on the phone or online in South Africa. You need to go in to, the customs office. And that basically means you get to go sit in a line for 3 hours. So that's what I did yesterday morning. Yeah, no, that's all it is. It's not something terribly serious. I mean, it's serious, right? If I don't get it sorted out, I close my business's doors, pretty much. Which means I'll have to make this game dev thing work, so I can supplement my income. Or I'll have to go just get a job, another job, something like that. I don't know. But hopefully it doesn't come to that. Okay, let's see. I need my scriptable objects, right, for my audio clips. I need to get it over there and just put it there. And now I need to find where the hell that audio asset came from. Okay, that's unfortunate. I'm pretty sure I got it from here somewhere, right? Impacts. Yeah, there was a pebble impact one that I think sounds pretty good. Stone hit sounds, right? Something like that. Okay. So now we should have a sound playing for hitting that big stone totem. Might not be exactly the sound I want. I might have to go out into the... I don't know. go into the mountains and just hit a rock with something so I can get a sound effect that I like better. Yeah, into the wild with a mic, because I can't get nice sound effects. I can't hear anything. Okay, let's try that again. And let's just stop the music quickly. Just want to make sure there is a sound playing. Ugh, these enemies are going to make it difficult now. I think I'm hearing something. You know what, it's subtle. That took like half an hour for like not that big an effect, but anyway, it's fine. Well, I'm just going to stick with that. It's going to be okay. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Okay, what else do we need to do? Okay, so I think I want to kind of start designing the levels a little bit. What else do I really need to do? In terms of this whole system, like what does a base level prefab need additionally? I guess I wanted to put some kind of a visual on top of this totem, indicating, somehow indicating the amount of corruption left, or the timer, or something like that. I don't really know how I would do that though. So what could be cool is like if we take this golden detail thing over here, right? What if we took this, so this thing, and had a shader or something, I don't know. That kind of reduces. So if this is like the progress bar, this detail. I wonder how you would do that. I actually don't know. That's not something I've attempted ever. I might have to go think about that for a bit. How would you do something like that? Yeah, I haven't really messed with shaders at all. So, but that could be a cool idea. If this thing like glowed, and the glow would go down as we hit it, right? So as time runs out. Let's see if I can figure this out, right? We might as well figure it out live. So I think I'm gonna go back to my tutorial that I did, because I did do something not quite like this, but sort of. Yes, like I can't remember at all how I did that. I remember creating a shader graph, and that's about it. So I'll figure this out. Yeah, this is one of those things that it could add, like just knowing how shaders work, you could do quite a few cool things in the game, I guess. But yeah, it's difficult. Especially if you don't do it often. You keep forgetting how it works. Okay, so let's try and remember. Where the hell? Okay, so the only kind of the shader thing I had that did anything interesting was over here, right? So that's a shader on top of a thing. That's the delivery counter. And then we got the arrow. So what exactly is this? Okay, so we put in the... Okay. So it seems like we had to change the material. So I just added a mesh, I guess, on top of this thing. And then I made a material with some moving visual shader graph, right? So let's see. So somewhere here I probably made a shaders folder. Yeah, here's the shader. This is going to be interesting. Yeah, so this is just some 2D texture that I got in there. Which I suppose is just going to be the arrow, right? Yeah. I'm looking at this and I have no idea what this is or how this works. It's like I remember doing this maybe a few months ago. Well, this is almost like 6 months ago now. And that it is possible technically to do, I believe, what I want to do, but I have no idea how the hell any of this works. Yeah. Yes, I believe that is exactly what it's doing, Ice Bear. Yeah, what I mean is like, okay. So how would I do what I want to do? Which is like have this mesh become a progress bar. You know, this is something... This is... So this mesh over here, I want it to be a progress bar. So I want to apply a shader that kind of fills it up or, reduces it based on the progress. So I would have to make a shader. Yes. But you can tell I've never done this. Yeah, I want to make a mask that goes from the top to the bottom or whatever. But yeah, I don't know how to do that. I haven't really messed with shaders at all. This might require... Yeah, this might require a bit of a deep dive in my off time. to figure that out. Because I don't think I'm going to get there just by fiddling with it on stream. I might have to go and, you know, find a YouTube video or something. I'll do that then off stream. And I'll worry about that off stream. It's quite simple, this guy. Okay. The idea or the goal is simple. I just want this mesh. Right, this one that you can see me toggling. I want it to be like a progress bar. So it'll stay there, but it'll kind of glow, right? And then the glow will recede as the timer runs out. So it'll go down, for instance. It's a measure of how much time is left in the level. I think that'll be kind of cool. But yeah, like I have no idea how to even start going about doing this. I know one of the steps could be just going into my visual. No, what the hell? Where am I now? Opened audio mixture, visual assets. Going to my. Where did I put my other shader? I made one before, but I don't remember where the hell I... oh, shaders. And potentially just creating a new shader graph here. What the hell? Yeah, you see, I don't even know what these options mean. You get lit, unlit. Those seem pretty straightforward. But then you get a sprite, which I kind of think I know what that means. And then a decal shader graph, a canvas shader graph, full screen. What does a decal shader graph do? But anyway, I would guess you make a lit one, and then you call this like the totem progress bar shader. And then you do something with it, right? You open it, and here we go. I would say that you need to maybe get a texture that you want to apply. Maybe. Actually, don't know. Do you get a texture? And then I want to connect this thing, obviously, with the amount of time left in the world. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there. I don't wanna get bogged down, because that is gonna get a bit boggy, right? But there are still a couple of other things we can do. So that would be nice. That's one of the things on my to-do list. That I'll have to go figure out off stream a little bit. Let's just go and see what else I had in terms of my planning for today. So shorten time while... Okay, so we do that. We want to add some visual element to the totem. So we'll figure that out as well. Okay. Okay, so we want to change the way the spawning is calculated. We want it less random, which basically means that, you know... the first wave shouldn't already be spawning 100 frogs and 20,000 Komodo dragons, right? If you think about it, the very first wave should really just be a couple of lizards. Well, not a couple. There could be quite a few, but it should only be a few lizards, right? You don't want the higher tier enemies showing up on the first level. So I think we want to figure that out. Or something like that. And then... maybe make it possible for levels to have some kind of a passive effect. Yeah. Also, the other thing I was thinking about is to maybe have totems have a passive effect as well. So they could do a couple of things. So either they can slow the player. They could buff enemies, right? They either speed or attack, speed or damage, for instance. So the totems, obviously, they'll be there and you can destroy them for potential item drops and stuff. But they might actually, in an area around them, cause or, buff enemies or slow the player, so apply buffs to enemies and debuffs to players. So we could do debuff player. Right. Slowing is just one of the potential things. So that just gives you another reason to interact with the totems, right? You can interact with them by... you will want to interact with them because of the potential item drops that you could get. But also, I think you want to interact with them because otherwise it just makes it more difficult to play the level. Right, so that could be kind of cool, and that's mostly code. It doesn't require me to figure out shaders right now. So we can look at that. And then we can have level-wide effects as well. Like if we had a swamp level, for instance, it could basically slow down all movement for the player. Right? I think so. Okay, so let's see if we can figure that out. Yeah, because we still have like 3 hours left to go in this stream, and I already am kind of struggling to find things to do. So, but this seems cool. I think this would be cool. So let's go do that. Let's go see if we can make the totems have an effect. Okay. So if we have a totem prefab like this, we have an enemy building manager, which basically just, well, it does some things. I think we add a script to that, which is going to be enemy building or just enemy building buffs or enemy building debuff, right? So let's go to scripts, enemy buildings. So building let's just call it area effects. Right? And the idea would be that, it could be a buff or a debuff. We don't really know. Hello? Oh, it's still adding the script. Okay. Area effects, right? So we add it to the totem prefab. Okay. And I guess what we could do is we could potentially just have an enum here. Enum area okay, so there could be no effect, and then there might be a slow character or slow, let's just call it a slow player, and then there might be reduce player damage effect, and then we could have a Well, okay, so this could just be 2 of the debuffs, and then we could also have buffs, which like an increase. Let's call this reduce player movement, reduce player damage, and then we can have increase enemy movement and increase enemy damage. Right, and now that I think about it, maybe we have 2 types of area effects. We have a buff enemy area effect, and then we can also have a debuff area effect, right? And then the buff area effect would be those ones, and the debuff would be those ones, right? I just want to categorize them like that, right? And obviously there might be more potential buffs and debuffs, but let's just use those for now, right? Okay, and then we can have a public buff area effect and call it the buff area effect, and we can have a debuff area effect as well, right? And we can set this in the inspector per totem, right? Okay, and then we need some code that basically checks the area around around the totem, and if okay, so we can do this 2 ways, right? I think we do it. So the way I think we could do this is, okay, you have an area, an AoE, right? And then when something enters the AoE, it checks with the totem. So it asks the totem, yo, what is supposed to happen to me? And if nothing happens, nothing happens. If a buff needs to be applied, we apply the buff, etc. So basically, this thing will project an area, and when the character, for instance, moves into the area, it will ask the totem, what effect do I need to apply to myself, and apply the effect. Instead of the other way around, where the totem applies the effect to the character. And that way, I think then when the character exits the area, right, we would then remove the effect. Right, but the character removes the effect from itself. Right, almost something like we did with the status effect manager. Right, I think that makes sense. Right, so let's work with the debuff effect, for instance, first for the character, right? So what that would look like is, I think we need to go into our character scripts and just create a script here. Do we do debuff character? We could do it in the player as well. Yeah, but I think it should be the character actually. Yeah. So we can just do it character debuff. Right, character debuff. That's good enough. Okay, and then if we go to our characters, right, we basically have to go all the way to the base player character and add a component character debuff, right? So now it's added to all characters. Okay, and we'll have to do something here. Okay. So we have the area effect and we have the character debuff script. Okay. So how exactly would character debuff work? So if we debuff damage and we debuff movement speed, we would have to be able to update those values in some way, right? So character damage, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, is something that gets calculated almost, well, through the stat manager, right? So whenever the character does damage, it basically comes here, and it's like, okay, get damage or crit damage, right? So one of these two gets done. Okay, so it does a get stat total. And get stat total basically runs this, right? But on top of this, we could ask, do we have a character debuff right now? Right, so and the debuff just checks and applies the relevant debuff. Right. Okay, but then basically the damage gets changed. And then whenever we apply damage, we first reduce it by the debuff amount. Okay. And then movement speed is a little bit more complicated because we don't change that on the fly. Right? We get movement speed and that's okay. But that basically happens when we apply. So you see apply active character stats, right? So the set movement speed gets called. Player movement or instance set movement speed. And just like that, right? Because it's not something that could change during playing. Or it never was. But now it technically can change during playing. Right, so we're going to have to rework some of this code as well. Okay. So let's just get it to actually track. To apply a debuff, it doesn't have to change the property or the actual damage stat just yet. But it should at least know that it is debuffed. And yeah, do something about that. Okay, so let's see. How would we do this? Okay, so the one way I could think is this thing could project an area, right? And when something enters the area, it could run a script apply debuff, right? So that's one way of doing it. So it checks and it applies, right? Another way we could do this is instead of this thing projecting an area, it could just be there and this thing projects an area. And it says if the totem got close enough, right? So it's projecting an area, it's looking for totems. If it gets close enough to a totem, it asks the totem, what buff or debuff do you apply? And then apply it. to the character. So we can either have the character continuously asking or looking for a totem. So now there's a bubble around the character, and when something enters that bubble and that something is a totem, it'll ask the totem, should I apply a buff or debuff to myself? If yes, which one? And then it affects me, right? Or we put a bubble around the totem, and when something moves into the bubble and it's a character, for instance, and the totem is a debuff totem, it'll then tell the character you've entered a debuff zone, so get debuffed. Okay, and then how do you, when you exit the debuff zone, or if the debuff zone gets turned off, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how I would... This is something that's going to happen like on update or fixed update, right? So it's going to basically on update keep checking if we are still in the buff or the debuff zone. So the only problem I have is, so let's say the totem checks, right? Whether you are inside or not inside the zone. And you exit the zone and it checks and it says, oh, there's nobody in the zone. How do we then tell that nobody, because they're not connected anymore, oh, you can remove the buff or debuff? Right, because normally what you do, so let's just do the damage, for instance, right? Like with the ninja special attack, for instance. So when this is called, it basically does, well, this is one way, obviously. We would call something like this on update. But effectively what it does is it checks for all the colliders. So this is what we do. We check for all the colliders in our overlap sphere. And then for each of those colliders, we could then we could run a function, right? Apply hit, for instance. But if those colliders exit, we want to apply another function which removes the buff or the debuff. And that gets kind of weird. Right, so maybe it is better to have a bubble around the character, right? And when you move that bubble over a totem, it would obviously get the collider, which is the totem. We obviously put it on a layer that it doesn't really interact with everything all the time. But we get the collider of the totem. We're like, oh, there's a totem in range of us. Let's ask the totem what effect it'll have on us, right? The totem tells us, we apply that effect, and then as soon as this changes, right? So the overlap goes away. We then just remove any buff or debuff from ourselves, right? Because we know ourselves, right? The totem might not know us all the time. It's easier for the player, but I'm thinking I want to make it work for both enemies and players. Right, so I think that's the way I'm going to do it. So we'll have a fixed update, say, over here. And effectively, it's going to work exactly very close to what's happening here, right? So we get a collider array. Yeah, so overlap sphere obviously returns. Yeah, so let's see. So physics, if we do, We can either return a boolean, but I think there's one that returns a boolean as well as it has an output, right? I know raycasts work like that, so we can do boolean physics. Let's just call this totem in range equals physics dot. I think we can do a check sphere, and there might be a way to get an output. I actually don't know. What can we do? Okay, so we can do position radius int layer mask. It doesn't look like it does have that. Okay, so check sphere might not be. If we do overlap, store them into a buffer. So we have a collider array called results. But in that case, we could just do collider. Well, you know what? No, let's try that one. Let's try that one. So we want a overlap. Okay, now we can get overlap sphere. No, it returns a collider, right? So that won't work. This one returns an integer. Okay, so just the amount of things that overlap. And this one could... Okay. So that's kind of pointless then. So we could just do collider array totem in range. Totems in range. We do an overlap sphere, and then obviously we can have a vector. Yeah, position. So that should just be transform dot position, and then the radius. Okay, so totems, if we do it this way, the totems would have to have the same radius. All of them. Which maybe I don't want that. Okay, so maybe there's a different way to do this. Maybe we make the totem do the check. And as soon as you move into the totem's range, ooh, that could be a good one actually. Maybe I like that one more. Okay, so here's another way of doing it. So the totem does this overlap sphere thing, right? When you move into it, it tells you, I'm the slow totem, slow yourself. This is my range, right? And then as soon as you move, so then we can do two things. We can either also have a overlap sphere, or we could just calculate our distance to that totem. And if we ever exit that range, we remove the effect. I like that way more. I like that way more. Because then we can have the totem do... We can... Each totem could have a different range, and this should all still work correctly. Yes, I think that is the way. And I think it's less resource intensive, because we're not making physics colliders in that case. Okay. I like that. Okay, so we could do a fixed update here. And in the fixed update, we would get all the colliders. But we should think about this. So if let's say the buff area effect is not equal to, for instance, buff area effect dot none. Right? And we do the same kind of thing because so debuff area effect. Okay. So we check this first, because if a totem is set to none, meaning it doesn't have a buff effect or a debuff effect, we don't want it to do anything. But maybe some totems have a buff effect, right? So then on update, we wanted to try and apply the buffs. Some of them might have a debuff effect, some of them might have both. And in this case, that'll work out. Right, so let's work with the debuff effect first, because we're doing the player first, right? So what we effectively want to do here, I think, is we just want a Boolean. Do we want a Boolean? Yes, we want a Boolean. Yeah, no, this is fine. Boolean. And we'll call it player in... do we want to do this in effect area? We do a physics dot check sphere, right? We do transform dot position, and okay, this will do. Okay, this is the radius, and I think this would be a. Let's call it a serialized field, private float, debuff radius. Right, we apply it like that. So we check, okay, and then we need a layer mask as well. Let's just call it the layer. Okay, and we need a private layer mask called layer. No. Right, and on start, we would have to get player layer equals get mask, get layer mask, layer mask dot get mask, and the mask name is player. Right, if I remember correctly. Okay, something like that. So we check. Okay. So maybe we do. Okay, so now I'm kind of just, okay, I'm thinking a bit. So we do play in effect area, and then we set it to true, for instance. Okay, so we can either do on the next update, set it to false again, and then we kind of keep checking, even if it's true. So I kind of don't want this to run if we already ran it, right? If that makes sense. So it's kind of like, okay, the player enters the effect area, and we apply the debuff. Right, so we don't want to then apply the debuff on every fixed update. So maybe we enter the D. Okay, so what if we do this? Okay, so this starts as false, and then we can do a AND. Play and not play an effect area. So only if this is false would we actually try this. Would we try and detect the player. As soon as the player entered the effect area and this is set to true, yeah, so we continuously check for the player. And as soon as the player is in the effect area, don't worry about it. I don't know if I like that too much. Maybe it's okay if we continuously check always. Yeah, actually, now that I think about this, the more I... yeah, no, as soon as you start coding, you quickly realize that you might be doing something dumb. So let's think about this. So we could continuously check this, or we could just say, look, if the player enters, so we work it like a trigger. So if it's false, the player enters, we trigger it to true, right? And then we don't continuously trigger. So we run some function here once, and we don't continuously trigger. The only problem is if the player then moves out of the trigger area, this should be set back to false. So we can either have it continuously check and set itself back to false. So then it always checks. So this sphere check sphere is always active and it's always checking. And it's always potentially calling a function to buff or debuff the player. Yeah, so we could do all the buffing and debuffing from here, actually. Because it'll also know when there is no player. And if there's no player, then we can call the remove debuff function. Huh. That's kind of weird. I could do it like that. I don't like the idea. Because then if the player was never in the affected zone to start with, would that mean this thing is just continuously unapplying the debuff? That seems bad as well, right? I don't like that idea either. Okay, so let's just do it like this for now. I'm thinking about this. Now, look, I might think of better ways to do all of this stuff. But anyway, we could have then a public void apply debuff function. Right, and we could think about what the debuff function actually gets. It might get, what debuff it is, for instance. So we could say that we need, to start with, we need the enemy building area effects dot debuff area effect, and let's just call it the debuff, right? Okay, we need to know what debuff to apply. Okay. And in addition to that, we might want to get, let's say, the totem position, for instance, or the transform. Transform. Just the totem, right? So let's say we get those two things. Okay, then from there we can do a couple of things. So we apply the debuff and we get the totem. Okay, and maybe what we can do here is we can have a private transform as well, and just call it the totem. Right, and what we could do for starters is just make totem equals totem. Okay, let's call this the debuff totem. So we get the totem, right? And then, for instance, what we can also do on update is we can check if we are in range of the totem. So if... okay. So then we should maybe get the debuff. So this could be a float. And we can call it the range. Right, and what we could also have is a private float debuff. Oh, geez, debuff range. Okay, and we can do so the totem and the debuff range. So we get those two things, and what we can do is we can say if, and we can kind of calculate our distance to the totem and compare it to the range. Okay. I think I'm cooking. Before I cook too much, I need to go to the restroom real quick, so I'll see you guys in a minute. I'll also grab myself some more coffee. Why are you on the main screen? Go over there. Yeah, let me just do that. Give you something to look at. I'll see you in 2 minutes. I have returned. Okay. Cook, you say? Yes, I'm cooking. What is this guy doing? This is Natural Plaint 3. Seems like a suspicious character. Promoting cheap viewers. Get away. Get away. I don't want your cheap viewers. Yeah. Okay. So, what the hell was I doing here? Okay. So basically we wanted to know if the distance between the player and the totem is greater than the range. Okay. So what we can also do is we can have a private Boolean and just ask debuff applied. Debuff applied. And what we can say here is as soon as we apply a debuff, we do debuff applied equals true, right? And then we can do a couple of things. So we can first do if a debuff has been applied, right? We can say a couple of things. So we could calculate the range to the totem, or we could just do this in another. So if the debuff is applied, we can ask if let's see, how do we get the distance? Oh, we just get the magnitude, right? So we just do debuff totem dot position minus player manager dot instance dot transform dot position. Let me do dot magnitude. So if this is greater than debuff range, right? So if this, which is just the distance to the player, is greater than the debuff range, so that means our distance from the totem to the player exceeded the range. So if this ever happens, we need to do a couple of things. So first of all, debuff applied must be equal to false, and I think we would have an event fire. Right, so we could do something like to just let the totem know, oh, by the way, we have decoupled, right? We are not actually connected to you anymore. Yeah, so we could do it with an event. Or you know what? We have a reference to the totem. So we could also just have a... Yeah. Don't need an event. We're already connected to one another. So we could simply do totem dot... No, man. What? Oh, debuff totem. It's the debuff totem. Debuff totem dot... what I want to do? Debuff totem dot game object dot get component, and the component we want is the enemy building area effect manager, and then we want to do something with it, right? We want to do a public void This is just going to be something simple like... Did I unmute myself? Yes, I did. Public void. Remove. So would it be remove debuff? Maybe? I actually don't know. Well, let's just call it set player in effect area. So then player in effect area becomes equals to false. Right, so set player effect area equals to false. Okay, that means we can check for the player again. Right? That makes sense. Okay. So dot set player in effect area. Right, so as soon as we exit the range, we can just switch it off. Now, doing this seems kind of weird. So basically what's happening here is instead of doing the continuous update to check with this check sphere whether the player is in the effect area, we basically just do it like this instead. Now, and also what's kind of dumb is we could just calculate the distance between the player and the totem as well, continuously. Instead of doing a check sphere. So we don't need we don't need check spheres, technically. We could just do distance calculations. Yeah, I mean, technically that is true. Okay, but anyway, we need a couple of other things here. This should also be private, I think. Private. Okay, so we have a debuff radius. What else do we need? Debuff. So let's see, if we apply the debuff, we need the debuff itself, we need the totem, we need the range. Yeah, okay, so that is everything. We already have those. So basically, if the player gets into the area, so we could check that again, but look, it's not going to work if this is false. Oh, we are checking, and then we can say if play in effect area, so if this is ever true, which should only be true once. So if this is true, we do, yeah, we kind of have to do player manager dot instance dot get character, get selected character. Yep. Get selected character dot, that's a game, so then we get component, and the component we want is the character debuff. And we want to do apply debuff. Right? Yes. So we get the character debuff and then we do apply debuff. Okay. Okay, so we need a debuff effect area. We need transform, and then we need the range, which would be the debuff radius, right? So we just apply the debuff like that. It feels like I'm overcomplicating things with the player. Okay. Okay, so then if the player then exits the effect area, we just exit the effect area. Okay, so then this is false. So then we can start checking it again, right? But that means this is false. This might return false every time, so yeah, we don't apply it. But as soon as this is true, even once we apply it, then it remains true. We apply it and we can't come back in here until it's set to false from outside again, right? So until the character debuff sets it back to false. Yes. Okay. So we apply the debuff. We have the totem, the range. It's true. Okay, so that's all good. What we can do is just do a debug.log here quickly. And let's just get the debuff, right? Right, let's just do that. I just want to see the debuff that's being applied. Okay, so something like that. We'll work on the rest of this now. Okay, but saving, and let's go. Here we go. Okay, so I think most of our characters should work. They don't need anything special just yet. So character debuff is there now. Obviously, we'd want to connect this to like the character stat manager and stuff like that to be able to apply debuffs, for instance. But not right now. That's not so important. What is more important, we just need to check. So all of these totems can have some debuff, right? So that is now part of their prefab. So let's just say this totem, for instance. And we tell it, hey, not priceless. What's good? I don't know. This game's pretty good. How are you doing? Okay, so let's say this is not a buff totem. This is so reduce player movement, and we give it a radius of 10. I should really give it a way of showing. So we should do draw gizmos. I never remember how to do this. Who else draws a gizmo? Apparently not that one. Oh, come on, there must be a bunch of them. And do I really not have one of them open right now? Let's see. This guy should draw a gizmo. Yes, it does. Okay. Okay, so let's just go into our totem and let's draw a couple of gizmos, right? So we could do the debuff gizmo in green, I guess. So let's just put the debuff radius over there. And if we go out, we should be seeing some kind of a debuff radius, right? Okay, so that's the radius. That's too small. I think we should make it bigger. That's too big. Okay, 20. So something like that, right? So if we get into the hell? If we get into range of that, it's going to cause us to have a debuff. Okay, let's try it. The other totems are not going to work just yet because they don't have... well, they don't have a lot of things, right? But they won't debuff me right now. Okay, so reduce player movement. Okay, so we are inside the debuff area. Let's close that. Okay, let's move closer to the totem again. And there it got me. Okay, so it seems like it's applying the debuff at least 4 times, which is interesting. Oh, it's for each character. Which is also not quite the way it should work, right? Let's just try this again. Okay, yeah, so it seems like... Okay, let's clear. I think it goes through all the characters, right? Okay, let's go and run towards it. So it only applied it twice this time. Okay, then when I moved out, it also... It ran 3 times. Okay, so let's just see why that could be the case. So when we move into the debuff area, right, it should set this to true immediately. And then get selected character, get the component, apply the debuff, right? I think I should maybe give it a little bit of extra space. So maybe we do just something like this, plus 0. Whoopsie, 2F, for instance, right? Not priceless, subscribed with a prime. Well, thank you very much. I suppose you followed as well. Yes. I reached 60 followers. Thank you so much, man. I do appreciate that. I do appreciate that. Okay, so our debuff range, we just give it a little bit extra because otherwise it switches it on. There's this border problem, right? If you think about it, if we ride on the border, it might want to switch it on and off very rapidly, which obviously it happens very rapidly because our frame rate's high. And if I just give it a little bit more, a little extra, it might not do that. Also, now that I think about this, yeah, okay, this is the other problem. So the range, yeah, we need to change this by at least the character size. So let's do 0.5, because also the overlap that happens exactly when any edge of the character overlaps that sphere that we made. But then it unapplies it based on the midpoint. So that's kind of a problem as well. So if we at least give it a little bit more radius there, it should be better. Oh, cheers, Mr. Human Limits. Have a good day, or good rest of your evening, I would say. Okay, so let's see if this at least makes it so it doesn't do all the funny applying the debuff 5 times in a row thing. Okay, Duck Ninja, let's go. Okay, so player movement. Okay, let's just clear this so that we can see. Okay, so it applies it, it unapplies it. I'm not sure if the unapply should run again. Okay, wait, let's do this. Let's make it like 1. Yeah, because I think it unapplies and then it reapplies it immediately. So we could just do a debug.log. Let's just do remove debuff. Right, just something like that. Straightforward. Just like so many errors here, or warnings. This is not my problem, right? This is Unity's problem. I didn't create that error, they did. Okay, let's take the Ranger for a minute. So let's see. So we move into... Okay, so we apply it. We remove. We apply, remove. Okay, so making the radius a little bit bigger than at least I see. Yeah, so we apply, remove. We don't apply, remove, apply, remove. Okay. Cool. Okay, so we got totems that could potentially debuff us now. So now the totems are dangerous as well. Okay, these levels are not balanced in the slightest. Like, how are there that many enemies already? Like, I don't think I killed any of them. But anyway, okay, so that seems good. I like that. We should have tested that with the chicken as well, because he's a bit more bulky. Yeah, let's just take the chicken quickly. Okay, so remove. Okay, reduce, remove. Okay, so he doesn't do anything funny as well. Okay, cool. That's good. Okay, cool. Now, what would be also kind of nice is if we can add a visual effect around this totem indicating that this is like a kind of a danger zone, right? I think that'll be kind of nice as well. Okay, so now the only thing... Okay, yeah, I can already tell where this is going to go terribly. So this needs to be something that changes with the radius of the zone, right? So I'll need to figure out how to change that, how to link those. Okay, that, I mean, it's probably not impossible. So let's say area effect visual. Okay, let's just put that there. And let's go look at some of our area effects, right? Let's see if we can get anything that looks good. Now, we could do this in a couple of ways. The first one is I want like some kind of a zone that you could tell there's a potential problem here. So I think that's good. But also, I want there to be a little visual indicator on the character itself to indicate that you are being debuffed as well, right? So we could look for both, but yeah, both of those would be required at least. So fortunately, we already have like buffs and stuff here. I mean, let's just look at this. So we have a debuff. Okay, so it's just a downwards pointing arrow. And that's honestly perfect almost, right? This would pretty much give us the idea that something is happening. And we can change the colors to indicate damage or health. Or, not health. Damage or speed or whatever the case might be, right? Okay, then we have this dizziness, a drunk one. Okay, this is a buff, so we could have that one for the enemies, for instance. So I kind of like those. So the buffs look pretty good. What else is there here? We have level up effects. They could look interesting as well. Yeah, this is not too bad either. Right, we could use those. Well, we should actually use those when they level up, right? These characters do level up. And you wouldn't know it. So that's something I need to think about. A magic field. Yeah, these might be what I need. This could be it, right? Yeah, so we could have this red field, for instance, around the totem in some size. Okay, let's try that. So we're going to go with the red field. Okay, wait, I need to open my totem prefab here. And let's drag in the red field into this AoE. Right, which totem am I actually looking at here? Ah, okay, we're going to have to fix this, right? These things are off-center. Yeah, that's bad. Let's just fix that. So that if I put something in here, it doesn't look weird. Yeah, I think it's this rubble pile. That's my main problem. Okay, and we can move these to go to like there. You take this rubble pile and move it over there. Okay, then this AoE field. Why is it over there? Oh, it's this. That's the problem. Okay, 0. Okay, so obviously it's quite small. Now we don't just want to scale it, right? We want this thing to... we want it to change its size. How exactly are we going to do this? So we got this cone, some particles. I don't actually know which part this is. Oh, it's the light. Ah, okay. Okay, so let's see this vertical cone. So we have this 3D start size. Is that what we need to connect to our range? So we make this like 15 for instance. I guess. So then this vertical, okay, that's that one. This, let's just make it 15 and 15. The particles start size. So this is the particle start size, right? Actually, yeah. Okay, so these don't have a shape, so that means I do change the ring. The particles, though, they have an emission shape. And I believe this is the thing that I need to increase the size of. Right, so if I increase the radius... Yeah. Okay. So if the radius is 5, okay, the scale should be 1. Just make the scale 1, and we make the radius 15, for instance. That'll work. Okay, let's try the light. So I guess we just change the size. Okay, there's okay, then that's the actual effect, right? Okay, we'll make this 50. Okay, no, that doesn't. This thing has a maximum as well. Okay, let's undo all of this nonsense. Oh wait, I can just, it's a prefab, so I could just go revert all. There we go. Okay, so let's just try and scale it. Let's just see what that does. Okay, so it scales it kind of, right? But it looks kind of bad. Let's try and lift this up a little bit, because I think it's clipping through the ground. Yeah, it is. Okay, so we could scale it. It's going to be a bit tough, right? If we scale this... based on the radius, it's going to look weird. I want to... So, okay, so we have an effect radius here, right? So let's just say the effect radius is 10, for instance. Okay, then let's say it's 20. Right, so that's our effect radius, which means we need that visual to kind of align with that. Right, now if we say that our 3D start size, so okay, so the 3D start size is 2 and 2, and this thing I'm not sure, 0.66, so that's a bit weird. So if we take all these, right, and we tick scaling mode, hierarchy, right? Okay, if we do that and we scale this by 10, okay, that looks terrible, right? It's the right size, actually, somehow. But it's a bit much. Jeez. That is quite something. That is an insane effect. Wait, let's see what it looks like in the game. I just want to go run towards this thing. I want to see. Wait, will all the totems have this now? Yes, they will. Okay, so this is... Yeah, it's a bit much. I want something that's on the ground, actually. Yeah, this doesn't work. Okay. So now we need just something that's on the ground. Like a decal or something, right? So this is cool, but it doesn't quite do what I wanted to do. So let's see what else we can get. What does pickups look like? Okay, so it's not quite... No. Okay, let's look at our polygon prefabs. Not there. There. Okay, so we have... Am I gonna have to make my own thing? So here we have a glow spot, right? What does a glow spot look like? Okay. Not quite what I mean, what I need. No, that's not what I need either. We have pickups, which are cool. But that's also not what I need. Okay, it seems like I'm not gonna get what I want. Isn't that sad? That's pretty sad. That is quite a sad thing. Okay, so we're gonna have to figure out some other way of getting a visual on the ground. So let's cook up our own particle effect, right? Particle system. Let's see. So couple of things we want to do. First of all, okay, it's a billboard renderer. Yes, that's fine. Do we want it to have a shape? Yes, we do want it to have a shape. A cone. I guess a cone is fine. Let's just see how this cone is orientated. Yeah, it's orientated like shit. That's not the right orientation. So let's... That... Okay, so it's not this axis. We need to rotate it about the x-axis. Yeah, pretty much, but the other way. Okay, so we put that over there. Now, we want the cone radius to be equal to the radius of our effect, right? So in this case... the effect radius is 20, right? So if we go to our cone radius, now we can change this in code, right? I hope so. If we make this 20, yes, so it will be now the correct size. Okay. Then our emission is a bit too little. So let's say we need like 50. Right, we might need more than just a bunch of cubes flying off into the distance, but this is a good enough start. Okay, so let's just select some kind of a particle. Let's just do the default particle because that's pretty much all I can use. Okay. Yeah, look how cool this looks. Okay, a couple of other things. So we don't want the duration to be that long. Let's just make it 1. Does that do anything for us? No, so it's not duration. That's actually the problem. It must be life. Right, yes. Life and speed. So if we look at us from the distance, we want there to be, yeah, something like that could be okay. So we can see in this area, there's this little glittering thing going on, right? So it must be an interesting area. So it doesn't have to go crazy. We can also do, okay, so this radius we'll have to figure out. Okay, what else can we do? We can do a color over lifetime, perhaps, right? And we can effectively just change the alpha so they fade. Yeah, that looks much better already. Okay, and then if we change the start, or do we need to change the color here now, right? So this color we might want to change it based on the type of effect, maybe. Potentially, right? So if it's like a green bubbling thing, it could mean something that's a bit different to the other bubbling thing. Okay, we see they have like a little bit of an outline. What is that? How do I... You see the blackish border thing. I don't know what that is. Cast shadows. What do happen if I say on? I don't think that's what I want. No, it's a bowl board. Yeah, they'll cast, yeah, no. They'll cast shitty shadows. I know what they do. Okay, so we could do something like this, right? I don't know. Okay, now we just need something else. You know what? We should have... Let's give this thing... Okay, let's just call this the area effect bubble. Right, let's just change the name. And then we call this the area effect visual. Okay, because then I also want to create another empty here. Call it the area effect. So that's the bubbling, and what would this one be? This is like the zone. I want to ground cover. I don't know what to call this. But yeah, something like the area effect ground cover, right? Okay, so we add a particle system again. Now this one I'm going to be different about it. We're not going to have a shape. Okay. We still need... Wait. How do I change the direction now? Okay, we're gonna go slow. The speed is gonna be like 0.1. Lifetimes, whatever. Rotation. This would be. So I think I need to change this rotation now. Again, probably this one. So it points up, right? If I change the speed again, yeah. So it goes up. 0.1. Okay, and the renderer. Wait, do I want a horizontal billboard? Let's just move this thing over here. I think so. Horizontal billboard. Perhaps. Something like that. And I don't know. Don't know what's this gonna look like. Okay, interesting. Interesting. What do I have? What can I make use of? A blur circle. You know, that might be exactly what I need. I just like it somehow. Okay, now I just need this particle to be the correct size. Okay, so let's see. Start size. Okay, so that's now a size of 3, for instance. That makes it the correct. Do we scale this thing? Is that how we get it to the right size for us? Wow, this is going to be interesting. I'm cooking. Let me cook. Okay, this is a little bit much. No. What did I do? I don't want to connect these. Let's just make this scaling. Oh! I actually misinterpreted what this means. Okay, so that's that. I think I need to scale the Z actually. No. Yeah, I should scale the Y. Okay, but that doesn't do anything, right? The Y scaling is not the problem. Okay, so this doesn't matter. What we need to change is maybe the lifetime. You can see what I'm cooking, yeah, hey? I can see what I'm cooking. So we can also make this random between two constants. Negative 0.1 and 0.1. No. We're not changing the 3D size. Okay, we can move it up a little bit. Let's just see what's happening here. That is interesting. That is interesting what it's doing right now. Okay, so let's make the speed even slower. So I want there to be a slight flickering effect. Nothing crazy, right? That looks like a glowy circle thing. Look at this. Yes, like it. Look at me making particle effects like I'm a pro. Okay, I don't know. This might be too harsh, right? So I think we need... Ooh, what if we... Okay, what if we just change the alpha value? Let it chill out a bit. Right, that seems good. Then we can do color over lifetime as well. And we can basically start the alpha. Like at 50, right? Like we do. And we end it at 0. Interesting. Okay, this is something. So it's a bit too flickery, right? That must mean our life is too short. So we make our life like 10. Now make our emissions like 2. Rate over time. Okay. Okay, now the color isn't right. Okay, but effectively what we do now is we just change the color to be like a greenish something, like a green glow. Right? And then we change this one to be the same green glow. Right, I still don't like, you can see what I mean with these particles. Look at the outlines. Why are they black? I don't like the black outline they get. But I have no idea what that is. It can't be... Like, why would it do that? Anybody, please. Is it maybe a start color thing? Not really. Yeah, this doesn't do anything. Why are you doing the black outlines? Come on, tell me, please. Oh! No, it's not this. No, it's not that. Never mind. I thought that was black. That's why this is doing that. So it can't be that either. Is it this particle's fault? Actually. Oh, it might be the texture. Yeah, look at that. That's way different. That's actually much better. Okay, let's play. Let's just see what it looks like. We can obviously tweak this still a little bit. Ooh, that's some cold coffee. Oh, that's super subtle. But I kind of like it. Huh? That's not too bad. Yes, like, look at me. You can see it, but it doesn't take over the whole flippin' screen space. That's pretty good. Okay, now the level ended. Very nice. Okay, only the one has a debuff radius. The other ones don't have. That actually doesn't look that shit. I am kind of blown away. Look at me making things that are not that shit. Okay, let's just burn some of these lizards just for the fun. Ah, that was a weird one. Yeah, so you can totally, some of the characters like the ranger might be able to actually outranges these things. Right, she can kill them from outside. But that's pretty cool. I like that. Well, I just like the fact that it works. Well, it looks like something, right? It doesn't look too bad. I made that myself. Very good. Okay, cool. So now we just need to connect these visual effects and their sizes to my totem effect script, right? Okay. So let's just go here, and what we need is we need to get a reference to our effects, right? So we can do serialized field and private game. Well, this would be a particle system, right? And we can do, it's the bubble. Okay. And we can do, the other one would be the ground effect. The ground effect and like the bubble effect, right? Okay, so let's see if we can, on start, for instance, go and access these. So can we do bubble effect dot. Okay, now this is interesting because obviously what we want, so if we look at the bubble effect, for instance, we don't want to scale it, right? We want the particle system, and we want specifically the emission shape radius. Okay. So could we do shape dot radius equals debuff radius? We get the shape. Okay, we can't do that. Cannot modify the return type. Okay. Could we do this? Okay, then we just do bubble effect shape dot radius equals this. Huh? How does that work? So it gets the shape. Why does that work, but when I put it in one long piece of code, it doesn't? Okay, then we want the debuff area effect dot. Okay, what are we doing with this one? What are we changing here? I think we are actually doing the transform. Yeah, we did scale it to 20. Yeah, okay, so it's just actually the scale. So actually that one should be quite easy. Yeah, so maybe we just make this one a transform. Okay. Okay, so now it would be ground effect dot scale equals multiplied by debuff radius. Can we do this? Is this the thing? Maybe. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. Okay, so let's try that. Be kind of cool if this works. So we can plug it in, and then we're gonna see what happens. Okay, so we just take the area effect bubble and the area effect ground cover, stick them in there, and the debuff radius is 20, so it should change it. Okay, wait, the debuff radius by default should be 0, right? For instance. And then, you know, if we go to that totem, we can make it be 20. This totem, we can make it be 10. And the other totem, we can make it 50. I don't know. Something ridiculous right now. I don't know if this is going to work, though. Okay, let's just make it smaller. Let's make it a very small one. So it's super obvious that it's quite smaller. So we have like a big one, some medium, and then a very small one, right? Okay, so let's play. Now, we should also be able to change the colors and stuff like that based on the type of effect. But for now, let's just see how this works. Okay, so we take the Duck Ninja. It starts. Okay, you can clearly see this is a smaller effect. But wait a minute. Okay, let's pause it. And let's go into this totem over here. Area effect. So let's just click on this. Okay. So the bubble size was not changed. The scale was also not changed. It's still 20. I want this to not be 20. That's unfortunate. Yeah, and the shape radius on this one. No. This one, yeah. Yeah, that's the ground effect. This one here, you can see the radius is still 20, so it didn't actually change it at all. That is unfortunate, I must say. I was hoping that works. Okay, so apparently this doesn't quite work. Okay, so this one, maybe this one we need to do a new vector 3, and we just need to do debuff radius on each of these. Right, so that might be one way to get around that scale. To set the scale to something different. Now this one though, I don't actually quite know. So if we do the bubble effect dot shape, is there a set dot set custom particle data? What does that do for me? What can I set? System collection generic list custom data. No, it doesn't seem like that is exactly what I want. Huh. Shape dot You had to drop your water off. Okay. I'm sure that it wasn't that bad. Okay, shape.scale. If we do this, the debuff radius, so if we just you see, this is why does this not work? So why can I do shape? I get the shape and I set the scale of the shape that I just got, but this doesn't allow me to do that. You didn't want to drive around. I get it. I don't want to drive around ever. It's annoying. Okay, but now that you're here, please help me. Why can't I set the scale or anything inside of a particle system's shape? Right, this is pretty annoying. So I have this, I made this particle system, right, for the totems. Okay, and it looks amazing and all that good stuff, right? So this is the particle system. Okay, so it does a few things, right? But I basically want to be able to change the AOE. Oh, you already knew what to do. Okay, cool. I don't even need to. Okay, wait. So I need to do okay, so if I do .main, what does that do? So I need to have a var. So I need to get that, and then I can do main.shape. No, what is... Oh, now I can... Okay, now I want to change, not the main, I want to change the shape. If you know what I mean. So the way I got this thing to look good is by changing the shape. So inside the emission shape, I changed the radius. Oh, what did I just do? That's not what I wanted to do. So the bubble effect has a shape, and I just want to change the radius based on the AOE size. But it doesn't let me. Yeah, var shape, bubble effect dot shape. I'm pretty sure that's what I just did. Yeah, so we return the shape, right? And then we can do a shape dot radius and make that equal to the debuff radius, right? Theoretically. And it doesn't give me any errors, which is very nice of it. But I didn't see it work. So if we okay, so if we just go out of this into the level. So I have 3 totems. They have different radiuses. Let me just go fix this one. I don't know why. So 1, 2, 3. This one I wanted to be like 6, a very small one, right? So we have a and I just have the gizmo so that I can visualize this, right? Now if I play this, I should have, if I click on these, I should see that they are different sizes, right? So let's just go to level prep, chicken night, start. They look right. Why was this not working previously? You know what? I think I was opening the prefab. Ah, jeez. Yeah, okay, so totem 1. If we look at the bubble effect, we go to shape. Ah, no, it does work. I think I was being a dumbass. That's the problem. I did. Oh, jeez. I still had the prefab open in my inspector. So it still had all the default values, even though... Okay, so we can clearly see now this thing is a bit smaller. This one is nice and big. Right, and then this one is very tiny. Which is kind of pointless. I just wanted to see it working, right? Okay. Yay! So I did do it correctly, and I was just being dumb. Anyway. What now? Now that I got that working. Okay, so the other thing I want to do maybe is change the color based on the type of buff. Right? That would be kind of cool. So if we think about it, it'd be kind of cool if this area effect, if I select a debuff which reduces player movement, for instance. So I select that one. And I give it a radius and all that good stuff. So this is, I shouldn't do it here. But anyway, I do that. It should then also change the color of the effects. I think that'll be kind of cool. Could this be a place where a scriptable object makes sense? So I just create a scriptable object, call it the area effect visual, or something like that. And then I give it references to these two prefabs. And then I also give it a color reference and stuff like that. Maybe. I don't know. Because I'm just thinking, I would either have to put it in here for all the different effects, or I could just have a scriptable object and then I could make multiple of those and then just tweak the colors. And maybe if I want to, I could tweak the type of effect that it has. I actually don't know. Because obviously I could just include all of them here, or I could have a bunch of colors here inside this script here. And I could make them all be what I want them to be. You know what? I don't need a scriptable object. I'll just do it this way. Because you can serialize colors, right? So you can have a serialized field, private, private, and you can have a color, right? And then I can just be like, this is the enemy movement buff color. Right, and I can kind of just do this like 4 times and be like enemy damage buff color, and then this could be character or just player movement debuff color, and then player damage debuff color. Right, I mean, this will work. I guess I could have made one scriptable object script and then just multiple of those, but let's just work with this. Like, yeah, I can see why scriptable objects are nice, but So if I make a scriptable object, I could just give it, I could tell it what effect it is. I could just give it a color. Don't need to do this. And then here, I could even give it a radius. I could. And then here I just tell it, look, you get the the buff SO, for instance, apply its color. Because now what I'm going to kind of have to do is I'm going to have to do like a switch statement where I'm like, okay, cool. Do we actually have, which one of these do we have? And based on that, yeah, that kind of feels also bad. So let's do a scriptable object, right? Why not? I haven't done one in a while. So we'll just create a new scriptable object script. And we'll call this the totem area effect SO. Right. And this area effect SO is going to have a few things. When it finishes compiling. Okay, so the first thing we'll have is, well, something actually we could just basically do something like this, where we have a effect, right? Area effect. So we have an enum, and we just call it the area effect. Or let's just call it the totem area effect. And it can have 4 potential effects. Some good, some bad. Doesn't really matter. Right? And then we can have an area, well, serialized. Well, no, this would just be public, right? Public color, and we just call this the area effect color. Right, we could also change the particle systems based on the type of effect. So I can make those prefabs, I guess, and then connect them to the scriptable object, and then it would load the correct prefab. If I want to change the prefab, so I could do that in the future, but I don't have to do that. So let's just say we have these two things, right? So for now, those are the two area effect scriptable objects we can have. Okay, then we go to our scriptable objects. And I guess enemies. Nah. This would be create new folder. Totem area effect SO. Right. And we can create a scriptable object totem area effect SO, and we can call this the slow player Yeah, let's just call it slow player. I'm not gonna be crazy about this. Okay, so let's say that is a yellowish color, right? So we give it like a yellowish color. The alpha value shouldn't really make a difference, I don't think. Anyway, so we just make slow player like some kind of a yellowish color. Right, and then we go to our this script. This one, and what we actually need here is a serialized field, which is the totem area effect SO, and we just call it the just call it the effect SO, right? And then we kind of don't need any of this nonsense. Okay. We still get those. We don't actually need this, to be honest. So we don't select it on the totem. We put a effect SO onto the totem. So this is not needed. This is not needed. Okay, that would obviously change. Yeah, so what we can do is we can just have a public. Public effect, or just call it the totem. Totem area effect SO.totem area effect, and we just call it the totem area effect. Right, and on start we set it equal to. Okay, so on start we go and we do totem area effect equals effect SO dot I guess we need. Okay, so in our effect SO we also need to actually set the effect. So this would be a public totem area effect. Call it totem area effect, right? Something like that. Okay, and then in our effect we do effect SO dot totem area effect. So just everything is the same. Now we probably didn't need to do this, but now I did it. So it's fine. Okay, now let's see. So in our character debuff, we now obviously get the totem, and here we actually get a debuff area effect. So let's rather do totem area effect is totem area effect, which would be a debuff typically. So we just have to check for those, I guess. So we get a debuff, and yeah, nothing else really changes here. Okay, so the rest of the things would be somewhere here, where we don't send a debuff area effect anymore. We send a totem area effect. Okay. So these two things are pointless. So let's get rid of those, and let's get rid of these as well. So if we get rid of all those, a bunch of things change. Okay, so we have to check something else here. So we can either do if it's a debuff or a buff, right? So let's just do that inside our scriptable object, I guess. We could just have a public boolean is character debuff. Just something like that. And if it's not a character debuff, it's a enemy buff, right? And all we need to do here inside of this thing is we'll have to ask if it is. So if effect SO dot is character debuff. So if it's not that, we run that code. Otherwise, we run this code. So if it's a character debuff and the player is not in the effect area, we want to apply the debuff, right? So that all seems pretty good. Yeah, so we've changed a couple of things. But now what this should be able to help us with is, now we need the bubble effect. So we have the shape, we have the radius, then we need var color equals bubble effect dot color over lifetime, hey? color color dot something like that. I think this also doesn't need to be dumb like that. This could just be vector3.1 multiplied by our debuff radius, right? Okay, that should change our ground effect. So this I could rename to bubble shape. And this I could rename to bubble color. Okay, and then our ground effect, we also want to change the color. Okay, so we do var ground color, I guess, and we set it equal to ground effect dot color. Oh yeah, wait a minute. This is not a particle system, so maybe we make it a particle system again. And then we can say ground effect dot transform. Something like that instead. So color over lifetime. And then we do ground color dot color. Something like that, right? So we run this at start. Okay, so let's just see how this goes. Okay, save everything. Okay, so I have our basic totem, which doesn't have anything, right? But as soon as we put it in a world or in a level, which apparently is that one, right? We have totem 1. So the effect, so we'll do a slow effect, range 20. Totem area effect. Oh, this we want to hide, actually. So we just do the slow player effect SO, because the slow player effect should have reduce player movement is character debuff true. That's how we make a new debuff. And we can make a few of them, we can change the color and all that good stuff. And then in the totem itself, we drag it in there. We don't select it here. Right, so we want to hide this in Inspector. So hide in Inspector. Yeah, so we only drag in the effect SO that we want. We set the radius. Okay, Okay, so then this one, I mean, let's just make them all the slow effects for now. For each of these totems. Okay, now there's a type mismatch here. Okay, I need to do that inside of the totem itself. Ground effect, we just drag that in there. Okay, let's clear the console. Let's give it a test. See what happens. Okay, no interesting errors. And look at that. They are very yellow. And if we move into it, it tells us reduce player movement. That is a very golden yellow color. Okay, let's just pause. So now my one... Okay, let's not check it inside of the flippin'. Okay, which level are we on? We're not on this level. We're on that one, right? Okay, but let's just look at this totem, for instance, right? I think it looks okay, but I have a feeling that the effects, color over lifetime, if you open this up, yeah, it's not a random between... It's not a gradient anymore, right? So normally this was a gradient, so it got rid of the gradient. Yeah, it just set it to a solid color. Okay, so that probably happened because I changed the color over here. So I don't know if we can do bubble color dot what? Okay, so maybe get set. So what does this thing actually take? Could I... What is a color blitzable? Huh. Yeah, how do I set a color gradient for a particle? So this might be something that I just Google. How to set particle color gradient in Unity. Right, this could just be... no, I need some code examples. Color gradient over life, in Unity using script. Okay, I need to do create a gradient. Okay. Gradient.setKeys. Okay, I haven't used gradient.setKeys before. How does that work? So alpha keys. Color keys, alpha keys. Okay. Particle system, color over lifetime, colored color, new particle. Interesting. So it's an array. My word. What's a gradient? Gradient. And then we set the keys to the gradient to color keys. Huh. It's quite a lot of stuff there, hey? Okay then. Okay, so we might want to do on start public void set effect colors. All right, and we do all that nonsense over here. Set effect colors, right? So okay, and maybe it gets a particle system, something like that. Okay, so we set, okay. Then, okay, so the first thing we're gonna need is well, we'll need the color. Color equals whatever particle system we got dot color over lifetime. Right? So we get that variable. Okay, so that's the first thing. One of the first things we'll need, obviously, right? So we need the color over lifetime variable. We also need to create a gradient. So, I mean, 1f. Let's copy all of this, right? Yeah. Okay, let's copy that. Okay, so let's see if we use it. So we create a gradient. So our gradient is just a new gradient. Then gradient color key, gradient alpha key. Okay. So color keys dot color equals not color dot red. Okay, this would be my effect SO. Area effect color, right? So both keys will be the same color. Okay, so at time 0 and at time 1, that is fine. And then the alpha would go from 1 to 1, no, from 1 to 0. Okay, from full to nothing at yes. Okay, then we set the keys to the color and that. We get the particle system, which is that guy, dot color over lifetime. Then we take the color, we create a new and max gradient. Oh. Okay, just something like that. And then in here, what we do is we just do set effect colors and we do the bubble effect. Right, and then we do the ground effect as well. Right, so at start we just set both colors. There we go. Ground color. Okay, and then the shapes we can do still like that. Don't do the color, so we just do the shape and the scale for that one, right? So those two, this is all we need to do for our effects. Okay, apart from that. Okay, so that was quite a lot of extra things that we needed, but anyway, it seems fine. So let's see if this works. Yeah, because it was pretty harsh, right? And we can even change the alpha, I guess, if we wanted to be something else, right? If we needed it to be something else. Okay. Let's just give it a go. Let's give it a go. See how it looks. Okay, so it's less harsh. Right? I think the circle maybe needs a... Yeah, it needs its starting alpha to be lower. Right. So yeah, so this is where it gets a bit weird. Yeah, because obviously this is now set programmatically to be 1 when it starts, and I want that to be the case for, I would say, the bubbles, but for the ground effect, not so much. Right, so then I have to change this in some way. It's kind of annoying. Not gonna lie. Okay, we could copy this. And then we rename this one to set bubble effect colors. And we don't actually input anything. We just set the bubble effect straight. Like that, right? And then this one could be set ground effect colors. We don't input anything. And we just get the ground effect straight. Like that. And now the set end color and alpha, so start color and alpha, so I want this to be like 0.3, very small, and it needs to go to nothing, obviously, and the color stays the same. Okay, so then we have our gradient set for the ground, and what we do here now is we do not this, but we just run set bubble effect colors and set ground effect colors, right? Okay, we could obviously also have done something here where we change this alpha based on an input. That I like that actually a lot more. Let me fix this. Undo. Okay. So we get this and we get a float start alpha. And our start alpha, put that in there. This is way better. And our start alpha for the bubble effect is just 1F. And our start alpha for this effect is 0.3F. Right, should have done it that way the first time. Yeah, that's way better. Okay, cool. So let's see if this is less harsh now. Because it was kind of crazy, right? We just want it to be a subtle color. Yeah, that's way better. Okay, now obviously we can tweak the colors forever. But for now that looks pretty good. I like that. So we have a slow effect. So now what we could do is we can go to this and we can just say create a new totem area effect. So let's create 4 of them. So this would be reduce player damage, right? I want to reduce player move speed, increase enemy damage, And then like increase enemy move speed. Okay, something like that. Okay, so the reduced player move speed is that one, and then this one. Okay, so let's see. Reduce player damage. Maybe we make that like a bluish one. I don't know. Right, something like that. Okay, and this is the reduce player damage. Okay. Increase enemy movement speed. So maybe we make this one like a red. Alright. Okay, increase enemy movement. No, movement speed, we make that one like the green one, I think. Yeah, increase enemy movement, make that green. Okay, and then enemy damage, we make that one red. I don't. That's what I think. Yeah, something like that, right? Okay, so now what we can do is we can like go to our level prefab and we can be like, okay, cool, this is the player movement speed reduction one. This one could be the player damage reduction one. And then this one can be the enemy damage increasing one, right? And we can play it and just see what that looks like. Now, obviously, there could be many more. And they don't really do anything yet. They just look like they do something. Okay. So here we have like a bluish one. We have the yellowish one. Then we have the red one. Ah, very cool. So the red one, you'll notice if I move into that one, I don't get any notification. But if I move into this one, it should reduce player damage. And then remove debuff, and then this is reduce player movement. Remove debuff. Okay, very cool. Now what I might also do is have it linger a little bit. Right. I could have it do that. I don't have to have it do that. But yeah, we can play with it, right? We can do a lot of things with it. Okay, but that's cool. So that works in the sense that it looks like something and it has a color and all that good stuff. Now, obviously, we can still add more things to that scriptable object, like the percentage that it removes or reduces or improves or whatever the case might be, right? That's definitely something we could do. And we could also, so that could go into the scriptable object. We can even code the range. I don't know. Maybe the range, maybe not. Okay, but that's some other things we could think about. Yeah, but at least we got it to look like something, and I think that's pretty good for now. Okay, guys, I think I'm actually gonna call it there. You know, it's almost time for me to go to work anyway. It's been 3.5 hours at least, so I think I did do quite a bit of work today. So we'll call it there. Look at this thing shining. You see, that's what I want. Look at that. It's reflecting something. But imagine now that shininess with a shader that indicates the amount of power this thing still has. That's what I want, right? So this is probably just a reflection from the sun or something that the material has. Oh, geez, there's so many things I need to go learn. But I'll figure it out. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. I'll see you guys in the next one. Tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Hopefully by then the totems do something. They don't just look like they do something. Anyway, have a good rest of your day or evening or whatever that's left. Let me... Ah, jeez, this thing's so annoying today. Anyway, end screen. Let's go. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Cheers.